My name is Sonia Mattia, and I want to welcome you to the webinar that's providing more information on the program Conservation Ecology that's run within the Department of Conservation Ecology and Entomology here at Stellenbosch University. So let's look at the outline for this evening. So we'll do the sort of introduction to the staff and the department, and then I'll be looking at the curriculum, unpacking it a bit. I'll be talking to you about graduate attributes, and then possible career streams and industry partners that might be options for you later on after graduating. I'll also highlight a few examples, but then also share some further information for opportunities. And then I've got two students. Firstly, Kopano will give you an undergraduate perspective, and then Dr. Charles Deacon, who has come through the whole program from undergraduate to postgraduate and completing his PhD in the department. In specializing in entomology, he'll be giving you sort of a postgraduate perspective of the program, and also potentially his studies and opportunities that he was exposed to. And then we're very fortunate this year to have alumni, a graduate from the department that's working actively in some other aspect or some aspect of the conservation ecology field. And then we'll end off, pending availability of time, with some questions and answers. So let's start. I'm looking at the curriculum outline, or at least firstly the department before we get to the curriculum. So the department comprises of academic staff as well as research associates. So the program is housed within the Department of Conservation Ecology and Entomology, as I mentioned before, and we roughly about 9 academic staff that specializes each in various fields of conservation. So each of us have got our own speciality, and there is some overlap between staff members, which basically enhances and make it a more multidisciplinary approach for some of those projects. But each of us are well experienced in terms of developing knowledge and generating knowledge through our research. And we pride ourselves with actually incorporating that knowledge into our teaching. So our students that's studying with us, that's sitting in the class with us, will most probably get first-hand current information of what's happening in that respective module or that program, or for the program itself. We're very fortunate to also have research associates, and I'll share some of the linkages with the industries now. So what a research associate is it's a established or a researcher, either a PhD or even further, that are seconded by an industry partner, like for example Woodcrow or citrus research industry, and they have offices and potential also labs in the building in our department, and they contribute to research opportunities for our fourth year honours level students, but also for our postgraduate students. And these research associates are basically working with researchers in the department. There's projects that are offered, and there's often sometimes industry funding for the student itself, or definitely for the project. The advantage is that the projects that those students are doing is what the real life situation is. So where the challenges are for those industry partners at the moment. So that makes the research very applied and very relevant, and it creates a great opportunity for the students to actually be involved in those kind of projects. So you can see we've got a whole string of industry paid research associates that are affiliated with us. And this slide just basically shows you the companies that are They've had a vested interest in us currently, with either providing research funding, research opportunities, and also collaborating with us on research projects. And this is what places our program separate from any other program at the university, but also actually in South Africa, because we've got this very strong linkages, and of course the Western Cape is also well known for its agriculture. So there's definitely an interest in this area. But some of the companies also have research farms and facilities up in Mpumalanga or in Limpopo, and students can also go and work there if there's opportunities. Okay, so let's look at the program. So the Conservation Ecology program is a 4-year degree. So it is different from the program that is offered by Biodiversity and Ecology, which is in the science faculty. So our program falls in the agri-science faculties, and I think just about all the programs in agri-sciences are 4 years. So at the end, students walk out with a professional degree. The 4th year is at the same credit level than what a separate BSc honours would be. So you can see the 4 years there in summary, but I will go through each of them individually. So the first year is a very generic year. You're going to come to campus the first years, and after orientation, you're going to be sitting in large classes. Now, the university has invested a lot of money into building large laboratories that will house hundreds of students, lecture rooms as well, and there's also the Afrikaans and English streams. You'll be allocated into different practical groups, as my understanding is, and this year is basically offered by the science faculty to a large extent. This is a foundational year, so everyone coming to campus that's doing a BSc basically gets the same foundation. All our students share, they do biology, sort of foundational biology subjects like cell biology, biodiversity and ecology, and also functional biology that includes plants and animals. So that's your biology subjects. You'll do chemistry in the first semester and the second semester, and then maths and computer skills, that's also shared. But then there's also what makes us separate is, say, BDE, Biodiversity and Ecology, will have physics, but our students will take environmental sciences, which is sort of an introduction to geology, earth sciences that you'll do in those modules. So this is a compulsory, all those subjects are compulsory, and this is a generic first year. So even students from animal sciences are doing most of these subjects. As I mentioned, the BDE program students are also doing most of these subjects. So this is a generic foundational year to set the scene for you to carry on and start specializing from your second year onwards. Now, looking at your second year, this is again, everything is compulsory. You'll see there's a whole suite of biodiversity and ecology modules, which is your strong botany and zoology foundational core subjects that we want our students to have. Because remember, although we're doing conservation ecology, it basically rests on a strong foundation of knowledge of both plants and animals. But we have selected those modules that are addresses the focus area for systems thinking approaches. And then you also start with conservation ecology 212 in the first semester, which is basically introduction to biodiversity. And in the second semester, you're doing conservation censusing, which is basically a methods-based approach to assessing biodiversity, species diversities, knowing how many species you have in an area, almost like a research methodology approach. How do you do your sampling, approach your research to, at the end of the day, generate data that you can write up in scientific reports or presentations that you give. Then there's also geoenvironmental technology. This is carrying on from the geoenvironmental science that you did in first year. So basically becoming a bit more technical, a bit more specialized in those fields of GIS, so geoenvironmental systems, and working with those kind of data. And then carrying also on with computer skills. In this year, you'll be using more software packages, Microsoft packages, but you'll also be learning how to use Excel for statistical analysis. Now you'll see there's a little star next to Biodiversity and Ecology 214, and that's just a reminder for me to tell you that there's actually a field trip, a 3-day field trip embedded in that module, because 214, that second module with the star, is also very much field-based, practical orientated. You'll go out, there's a mini research project. You'll basically do your data or your sample gathering, working with the samples, do the sorting, the methods that's required, and then also the statistics. And you'll see the 214 follows on from 212, which is more a statistical-based module, so using being exposed to various statistical methods that you will use later on in your studies. So that is that first module, Biodiversity 212. The third year is the year we specialize even more, and you have the options to add electives to your core modules. So on your left-hand side, you see your compulsory modules. So there's agricultural economics that basically tries to show you the demand and the supply chain within natural resources in terms of agriculture. And then also there's two modules, Biodiversity and Ecology 311 and 324. That you can do, that's part of it, and that is basically climate and environmental change, and also angiosperms, which is all the flowering plants, of which there's a lot of agricultural crops like wheat and some fruit trees, crop products. That's also falls within that group. So that's angiosperms. That's biodiversity, or the diversity of them, the evolution, systematics, classification, all those things related to that and that plant group. And then forest sciences, that's for natural forest system management, pests, pathogens, managing, classifying the different forest systems based on the vegetation or the plants. Then there's also biometry, which is biometry in the first semester, 212, and then 242 in the second semester. That is as the curriculum is standing now. But what I can tell you is by the time you get to second, or this is third year, we would have replaced that with data science in the first semester, as well as in the second semester. So the move is towards more in line with larger data sets, different analytical techniques that are used, more advanced, so giving us the students, or keeping you in line with what the current trends are. And then there's the electives, which is Biodiversity Ecology 314, and that is also the solutions with global climate change. There's also a marine module there, 342, and that's the marine component. That's very interesting. Some of the students that are interested in marine ecology can take that module. And then there's a genetics module that if you're interested in dwelling into the subject of conservation, with conservation genetics. And then also soil sciences, classifying soils, soil diversity. Remember, in terms of ecosystem functioning, everything starts almost at soil level, having a healthy soil and building on top of that. Because if you think about our trophic levels, you've got the soil, you've got the vegetation, you've got the herbivores and the consumers building onto that. So soil health is critical, and basically being able to classify different soil types and getting that knowledge is quite critical. So that's electives that you can take in the third year. In the fourth year, this is a very exciting year. As I said, this is our built-in honours year. your professional year, where you're going to be experiencing much more freedom in terms of working independently. You also have the opportunity to become more focused and really develop your own interest. There's compulsory modules, and it's, I don't know if you've noticed, but every year there's becoming more and more focus on conservation ecology. And we're also in the process of renewing our program. So in the next couple of years, we'll be building in more and more conservation ecology modules. But at the moment, we've got Conservation Ecology 414, which is also sort of contemporary conservation management. That's got to do with invasive species, restoration, biodiversity and health. So how does healthy ecosystem maintain healthy human lives and animals? As we think about the One Health approach, if the ecosystem is healthy and the animals are healthy, then obviously people that are eating the plants as well as the animals, in terms of resources, will also be healthy. So everything is connected, the whole ecosystem. Then Conservation Ecology 424, which is basically wildlife management. Several of our students, or many of our students, really enjoy working with large vertebrates, and this is wildlife management. So looking at all those different concepts with wildlife farming, human-animal conflict, and those kind of things. And then the new module that's coming in this year already, Conservation Ecology 444, which is sustainable agriculture. So how can we still maintain food production, but in a more sustainable way, looking at pesticide management or reduced pesticide use, biological control methods, and all those kind of things. And then Entomology 464, this is also presented in our department, and that is basically insect biodiversity, insect conservation, the role of insects in the ecosystem. So that's that aspect that Professor James Bryant looks at. And then there's obviously, again, your electives that you can look at. You can focus more on Entomology 418, which is taxonomy and a bit of physiology, agronomy, which is basically felt management, different felt types and the management. And then Introduction to Sustainable Transitions. This is sort of more the socio-ecological systems and how you connect basically biodiversity, economy, and ecology in those kind of systems. So that's quite an interesting subject area. Soil science, also one of the electives, and then geo-environmental technology, looking more at spatial mapping. If you think about habitat suitability models, so if you have data for species for certain GPS points, how can you make predictions, bringing in climate data for those points and where species will move to, what the futuristic climate scenarios are. We're basically modeling potentially 50 years, 100 years, where species would move to. So that's also quite interesting. And then again, you'll see little stars there. The red one is the Conservation Ecology 414. There's a field trip, a 4 or 3 day field trip. That's also a part of it. So again, being exposed to research in the field, collecting data, working with the material, the samples, writing up that results that you have analyzed statistically, writing reports, giving presentations. So throughout the program, there's a lot of individual work, but there's also a lot of group work and how to work with colleagues, peers on different subject matters. And then the blue star is the module Conservation Ecology. It was in the yearbook, it's 448, but it's there's a new year. It's allocated for the full year, so it's got a module number change to 478, and this is your research project. So all the academic staff put projects on the table, and then the students can choose some of these projects. Say, for example, you're interested in insect biodiversity or conservation, and say Professor Pryke puts a project up there that's available. You approach him, and then you start working on a proposal. So basically getting you into a more research-driven approach to your studies. And then often what happens is if students are interested, say, for example, with insects, but the project that is on offer is not 100% what they were thinking about, then it's also opportunity for the student to go and discuss alternative solutions or alternative options for the students. We try and accommodate the students' interests as far as possible, because a study or a project, what a student really is passionate about, will be beneficial for the student, because they learn so much more, and it's a very pleasant experience, and it's great for them in terms of getting their skills, and it's an overall win-win situation. So we try and accommodate as far as possible, and there's even some projects where we had co-supervisors from other organizations, say for example SANBI or WWF or even Sandbox, where they come on board and we develop a project together for the student so that they can do something that they really feel passionate about. So then at the end of this year, at the end of your 4th year, you basically can go directly into a Master of Science, a MSc. So our students don't have to do a separate honours degree, because your 4th year is your honours degree. So you can go and study at another environmental related program offered at Stellenbosch University. Say if you want to go into biodiversity and ecology, but the marine aspect, then you can do that if there's projects that you are interested in and that the supervisors are happy with your academic profile, and or even go to UCT or Pretoria University, or even students going internationally to other universities. So the credit level and the quality of our training is good enough for you to go anywhere. So you can basically shop around. If you've done your bit, you've attended class, you've worked over holidays, you've got out of your comfort zone, and you really embrace the opportunity that's offered to you, then I will guarantee that you will definitely have excellent opportunities available for Masters of Science to carry on in a specialty field that is of interest for you. So if you do your bit, our program is good enough for you to make your mark internationally as well as locally, obviously. So just to give you a bit of more experience, if you haven't been to the open days, this is our lecture room, our main lecture room in the J.S. Marais. Remember, you're only going to see this lecture room from the 2nd year onwards. So this is one of our classes that we have. This is our largest lecture room. There's also a smaller one. There'll be a lot of field work. We take the students out from the 2nd year already on doing experience during practical sessions, because our classes are normally quite small, range between 30 to say 45, sometimes at the most say 50 students. We are able to take you out almost every practical to give you that field experience, to basically apply the knowledge that you gain in class in a field-based situation. So there's a lot of field work, and we really try and make that happen. But there's also a lot of lab work. So you get your samples there, and then in the field, and then you come back, and we have the facilities, we've got the labs, we've got the equipment to really allow you to analyze that. I think there was a question as how you're going to get to the field. We have got vehicles, university got their own vehicle pool. So there's 21-seater buses with official drivers. We've got quantum vehicles, like small little vans that we can take the students. So there are definitely that facilities and resources. So we will take you out to the field, unless it's organized that we meet you and it's within walking distance, say at Kutsenberg, which is literally a kilometer from campus. Okay, so looking at the graduate attributes. So what we want our students to leave us with, this is at undergraduate level. So obviously we put a lot of effort into our students. As I said, we're a small group of core expert researchers that's lecturing in the different modules, and we really pride ourselves on hands-on teaching. I mentioned to you that there's individual work, but I also mentioned to you that there is group work. We expect you to do a lot of reading. We also expect you to work, basically analyze your data. We expect you to give presentations. So all of this gives you extra benefits from just the academic degree that you're going to walk out here. So we want our students to be able to contribute to sustainable management solutions in all utilized landscapes, so not just agriculture, say forestry or urban areas. We want our students to be real world thinkers so that you are aware of the issues that's currently taking place and come up with solutions to deal with those issues. And we also equip you with strong tools, a professional toolkit with all the academics, all the knowledge, all the interaction between you and us and you and your peers to have those skills to have a great foundation to develop that further. So obviously we want you to have a social conscience about your role as humans on Earth and civilization. We want you to be broad-minded, and I'm listing this because this is what we aim our students to have at the end of the day. You need to be able to transfer theory into practice. We want you to make a positive contribution to research and management. You should be, at the end of this, have a whole holistic transdisciplinary knowledge, a systems thinking approach through working with our colleagues and networking with the research associates, being able to network, communicate with people, engage with people, work in teams. So again, to have that cultural sensitivity and responsiveness, but you also need to be adaptable. You need to be resilient and take all the challenges in your stride and come up with solutions. Be creative in your thinking. So not just have a closed box approach, but think out of the box. And at the end of the day, we want you to have strong generic skills, writing, reading, quantitative skills, so that you are confident in your data, you can convey your information to the general public and also say to industry partners, and that you're inspired conservation ecologist. Okay, let me introduce you to some of our alumni that are currently working, which will give you an experience of basically just a tidbit of where some of our graduates are working. And firstly, I'm going to introduce you to Samantha Delafontaine, and she's working for the Northern Cape Conservation Office, working with permits, EIAs, movement of animals in and out of the province. So she studied with us and graduated in 2012. And I still regularly have contact with Samantha. And if I need permits, I know exactly who to contact. She's on the ball, she knows what's the requirements, and she's a really excellent ambassador for our program. Anshan Wolf, she graduated in 2021 with conservation ecology, and she carried on with a master's. She's working as a field agronomist for Bayer, and also a very young, dynamic young lady. They're testing biological and chemical crop protection agents for the company, and she's based here in the Western Cape province. Liam Coggill, he graduated in 2014, and then he also did a master's in our department. He works for Ecology. He's a project manager. He's been there for a couple of years now, and he's very much involved in finding more sustainable and more environmentally friendly pesticides or herbicides, often testing new compounds that's environmentally safer. So that's what Liam does, and he's actually registered, I think, to start for a PhD this year, or potentially doing it part-time. Craig Galloway is also one of our graduates. He completed undergraduate in 2010. He did his master's as well as his PhD in the department. He works for a company called Trace and Save, which is a company that works with farmers, I think towards the still by that kind of area, the dairy farmers. We advise them on basically keeping track of water usage, pesticide use on the farm, everything to minimize the impact and keeping the natural resources healthy, the water clean, pastures healthy, as well as the animals that's producing the milk in that area. So that's what Craig does. He basically works very much close with farming and the farming industry. Monique Wilkers is a Namibian, and she came all the way to study with us. She graduated in 2010. She's currently working for WWF in Namibia, where they do a lot of landscape project coordination, looking at conservation-related projects, also tracking endangered species, for example, elephant and rhino in the field. And she's still very active in the conservation-related field. And then lastly, just the last example, Willem Brioche-Louw is working in Mozambique. He's a wildlife biologist for the company there, Conservation Alliance. And he graduated in 2015. He completed also a master's in the wildlife management aspect of conservation ecology, and he's currently registered also for a PhD. So he basically tracks and monitors the lion populations, as well as some other endangered wildlife species, potentially wildlife, and also rhinos, but his core focuses on the lions. And then basically monitoring, keeping track of them, and assessing habitat use, animal interactions, and those kind of things. The next slide is just an example of companies that some of our graduates are working with. Just to give you an example, so it ranges from industry partners, WWF, to governmental organizations or parastate. We've got conservation agencies like Cape Nature. I mentioned Samantha with the Northern Cape. We have got Bondi, which is obviously a forestry organization or company. And there's also a lot of other NGOs, Living Lands, and then a bunch of nature reserves. For example, Sabi Sands and Shamwari and Sambona, Pinda, and a whole bunch more. And also Cape Leopard Trust for animal wildlife conflict. So this is the end of my part, and I am going to introduce you to Kopano Mokoloi, and she is an undergraduate student that is currently studying conservation ecology.
Is it on? Yeah. Feels like 2020 when we were in COVID. I was like, oh, is it on? Is it? Good evening, everyone. As Prof said, I'm Kopano Mokoloi, and I will be giving a bit of an undergraduate perspective of this program. So adjusting to university can be very difficult, and it is a roller coaster. So I'll be giving you a few tips that you can take with you or not. You know, it's up to you. So firstly, I will say that the CPF method, it dies at university. If you don't know what the CPF method is, it's a cram, pass, forget, as you did or do in high school. You just learn something by parrot and then you forget it. But that dies at university. You actually have to learn and understand and comprehend. So that would be my first piece of advice, is to learn how you learn. So I discovered this a little bit late, but it's fine. Now I know. I am an auditory learner, so I'm more likely to remember something if I hear it. So going to class is very, very helpful for me to, in a test, remember, okay, I remember Prof saying something like this, and then I write it down and get it right. So learn how you learn. Sometimes you learn better by reading and writing, or there are other ways. You just can Google it or ChatGPT. But going to class is definitely something that I recommend, because half the battle is won when you go to class, instead of going at home and then trying to figure out what something is. And so my second tip would be, of course, time management. This is something that is said a lot. Planning and scheduling, but I would add to that energy management is even more important, because you might have all the time in the world, but if you don't have the energy to do something, then it can be difficult. So try to take care of your physical health, of your mental health. try to sleep enough, try to eat well and exercise. Emphasis on try, because sometimes it can get difficult and sometimes you might have to pull an all-nighter, you know, but like I said, do try because that will make things a lot easier. And also another thing that works well is being in a group of people. So in class, try to make friends or at least acquaintances that you can make groups with and just bounce off ideas, especially before a test. And just ask each other questions and bouncing off ideas like that. So that's something that really, really works well. And of course, while you're at university, we need to focus on the academics. That is, of course, the first priority, but also try to join a society or two for doing something a little bit fun. So for instance, there is a Ecology society, which is for us tree huggers. It is a society that is focused on environmental health. We go out and clean rivers and do all the nature loving stuff. But there's, of course, other societies. I did ballroom dancing in my first year. So that was really fun. So do try and explore a little bit while you are learning. So just specifically about the program itself, I really did enjoy that it is half and half, more or less, practical and theory. So we did go outside a lot, and even if we didn't go outside, there are modules where you get to see or dissect the flower itself or dissect the lizard. Or you know, you'll see. It's super fun. And just with that, some of the modules that I enjoyed my first year, I really enjoyed geography for some reason, because I didn't do it in high school. I did it here in university. I didn't know rocks was so fascinating. Now, not being sarcastic, I mean it. It was really interesting. I didn't even know that I would be interested in geography that much. Another module that I really enjoyed was Conservation 314. Here we learned a little bit more about the social side of conservation, how to do surveys, how to talk to people. Also just a little bit on environmental law, which was a good exposure. Another module more recently that I've done is Entomology 418. This one was probably one of the ones that stretched me the most, just because I wouldn't have voluntarily chosen to study bugs or insects, rather, to be more specific and scientifically correct, because bugs you'll see. But if you're thinking about it, if you're not thinking about it, think about it. Entomology is a module that we got to catch bugs and we got to learn about them. Like I said, it wouldn't have been something that I would have voluntarily chosen, but I'm really glad I am, because I even learned and developed my character, getting over fears and things like that. So this program, I think, is good because it gives you a little bit of everything. You get to learn about forests and insects, a little bit of economics, a little bit of law. And so you leave more or less knowing, okay, which direction you're going to go to, especially if you don't know what you're going into beforehand. And I like nature. So throughout the program, you'll consolidate more of what you're keen on. So that's been me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kapana. I think what Kapana said is actually very important, is that if you form study groups, that helps a lot. If you don't have to study alone. The university, I'm not sure if you know, has got excellent study facilities. So it's called like a Narga and Virga and some other Irga, but it's basically a big computer room. So you don't necessarily have to come here with a computer. There's big computer facilities, and even my son, they form study groups that they sit together in the first year, the second year, and the third year, and it helped him quite a bit. So if you find, especially students that do the same degree as you, or at least are going to write the same module as you, the exams, it helps a lot if you sit together and you brainstorm and you help each other. Maybe one person understands one's concept better and the other one something else. Do you agree, Kopano? It helps a lot.
That's really good.
And yeah, so that is for Kopano, and thank you very much. So the next presentation is going to be, let me just get my computer going here. Oh, sorry, Shaul. So Shaul is a postgraduate, actually a postdoctoral. So he even finished his postgraduate studies. Shaul did send me a picture of him looking very formal, but I found this one online. So Shaul, I apologize, but I thought this was actually a very good representation of you in the field. So Shaul, I'm going to hide my camera now. I assume you must put on your camera.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you very much for the great turnout. It's good to see that there are so many people interested in what we do in the department. So I think before I start, or maybe the best way to start this is maybe to share a little bit of my sort of personal journey to get to this point. So I grew up in the Northern Cape, and I've always had a huge passion for nature. But of course, in high school, you get exposed to a whole bunch of different things and you want to try different things. And I remember vividly telling my parents, I think I don't want to do nature conservation. I want to go study acting. And initially they said, no, that's a good idea. You must do what you feel is right. And then a couple of weeks later, they said, son, we don't know about that. Maybe you should just stick to what your first love was, and that was nature. And I agreed, and I'm so glad I did. So we were looking around at what other universities offer, and Stellies was the one that offered something that aligned the most with what I wanted to do. So I came to Stellies in 2012, started my undergraduate, and I was surprised by how diverse the program is. I mean, there are so many topics you cover just in the first 4 years. I mean, you touch on geography, it's basic ecology, it's applied ecology, it's mathematics, it's statistics, it's a little bit of economics, it's taxonomy, it's physiology. There's a whole bunch of topics you get a touch of, and a whole bunch of topics you cover. But importantly, you never lose touch with the reason why you're actually here, and that is because you love nature. But you have a lot of exposure to different topics. And as a learner leaving school, you don't necessarily have it figured out with where you want to be or what you want to do for the rest of your life. But because the program is so diverse, it gives you opportunity to decide on something that you really want to do. Now, maybe it'll be unfair to say that there are no challenges. Of course, there's challenges. University life is a big adaptation, and it changes a little bit, how you think about things, and it teaches you how to manage your time, and it teaches you how to prioritize things that are really important. But there is no disconnection. So even at times when you feel you're losing a little bit of connection, you can always reach out to someone and you can always ask for advice, which is really nice. So what people take away from the program varies a lot, and people coming through the program get inspired to do different things. So many of the students who were with me in class went completely different directions, or they wanted to be more hands-on and they wanted to work in the industry, while a huge percentage of them wanted to stay in research and wanted to stay in academics. For me personally, I was inspired to be a full-time researcher, which is great. So after my undergraduate, I then enrolled in masters, and then eventually I did my PhD, and I finished in 2020. And then afterwards, I decided, you know what, I want to continue. So then I became a postdoctoral researcher. So what that essentially means is it means that you're in a phase where you finish your studies and you want to now start climbing the ladder to become a full-time researcher. And maybe just another note is that, you know, so the groups in classes are not huge. So the people you meet that study with you and the people you spend a lot of time with, often it happens that those people stay your friends forever. I mean, I've been through the system now a couple of years ago, and many of the people that I used to study with, we're still very much in contact. You know, we're scattered across the world, but we're all in contact, and we always touch base with one another and ask, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, do you maybe want to help out with this?" Or so it's so the the community you develop coming through the program, I think, stays relevant throughout your life, and doesn't really matter what career trajectory you follow. Those people stay with you. So maybe just to also give you a little bit of a sneak peek of sort of, you know, what your options are from a researcher perspective. So of course, the main thing is that you will, if you choose to stay on the research side of things, is that you stay true to science. You do scientific research that is relevant on a global scale. And coming through undergrad, you figure out what it is that you're really interested in, whether it's plants, whether it's restoration ecology, whether it's you know, mammal ecology. For me, it was insects and freshwater ecology, so I work mostly in that space. But it doesn't really stop with the science. There's always something interesting and something thought-provoking that comes up along the way. So you get to do science communication, which is now becoming a buzzword, where you have to write news articles or articles for magazines to highlight some of the work that has been done and sort of what you're involved with. There's also a whole different side where you start going into the more creative space, where you can do videography and you can do documentaries for nature, which is professionally followed by some of the people that used to be with me in class. There's also things like science illustration that you can do. You can contribute artworks to various published media, and so it's really very diverse what you can do, and it's all about figuring out sort of what it is that you really want to do and what makes you happy. And I think there's a lot of space here to develop that side. So I mean, you when you leave school, you're not always 100% sure what it is, what you want to do, but there's enough opportunity and enough exposure for you to kind of think about that. And you know, you also have lots of exposure to people from the industry and in academics that you can have conversations with, and you can find something that really makes you happy. So I think maybe that's all I wanted to say. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Just to give you a glimpse there, you can see the picture that I got of you. I'm not sure how old you were there, but definitely having quite a blast there in the field.
I think at that time I was probably less grey.
But yes, thank you very much, Charles. I appreciate the time and the help and the preparation with the webinar. Okay, so let us carry on. Or before we carry on, what Charles said was very important, is the program is quite broad. It's a system thinking approach. So it's not just focusing on one species, it's the whole system surrounding it. So either marine system or a freshwater system or a terrestrial system. So who are all the role players? But when maybe some of you, if you come to university, you already know you're passionate, say, about saving birds. Maybe birds is your passion, wanting to bird conservation. But maybe for some of the others, you don't know, you just know you like nature. And I would to really encourage you to try out, through attending class or engaging maybe in field trips or working holidays, find that passion as soon as possible. Because as soon as you study with passion, as soon as you study with interest, then you will definitely study with a much better attitude towards studies, and that will lead to success. So find your passion as soon as possible. When I was an undergraduate, before studying, I wanted to do zoology because I wanted to work with the big and hairies. Now, some of you might don't know what the term is, but that's basically large vertebrates like lions and elephants. But I always liked small things like parasites. And now I've got the benefits. So now I work on the parasites, but that are on the big and hairies. So I get the best of both worlds. So I can look at ticks on rhinos and lice on elephant and ticks on lions. So find that passion and really go for it. But you can only find that passion if you interact, engage, participate, and read up and attend seminars and go and speak to your lecturers. Be an active student, not a passive student. So I really encourage you to do that. Okay, so I'm very, very happy to introduce the next presenter. Justine works for Living Lands, and she graduated a couple of years, completing her undergraduate studies here, and she's going to tell you a bit about her journey. Justine, I hope you're going to tell them what you did after your conservation ecology program, and yeah, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Sonia. Yes, so I completed my undergraduate in 2013, and then I decided ecology is good and all, but I didn't want to go into research, and I didn't want to go straight into environmental consulting. I felt like, what does it mean for society as a whole? And then I thought of doing a postgraduate diploma in engineering and renewable and sustainable energy studies, and that opened my world a bit to a different faculty. I literally then moved after 4 years at conservation ecology. I moved over the road to the engineering faculty and met a different kind of breed, which is engineers. And I didn't realize that my conservation ecology degree would be useful in an engineering environment. But that's just a little bit of my graduate to postgraduate journey. Actually, I have some slides that I want to share. Sonia, can you please confirm if you can see? Just swap.
I can see, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Justine, I've got them.
All right. All right. So currently I'm working for Living Lands, and I'll explain a little bit about Living Lands in a while, but just to recap a bit on myself, what made me choose studying conservation ecology is I grew up on a livestock farm in the Eastern Cape. So I was surrounded by the natural world constantly, and I didn't come from a family where people went to university. So I was the first one to go to university. So I didn't really know how you go about choosing degrees, but it made sense to me to study ecology and to study the environment around me. And conservation ecology was a broad enough program that it kept my options open. I know Kopano and Charles both said that. So it really is a good program that keeps your options open. And while I was growing up on the farm, I was already passionate about restoring the veld and seeing how I can increase the productivity of the veld in an arid environment. So it just made sense to go into that. And as I already mentioned, I did some good postgraduate studies after my postgraduate diploma. I did a master's in conservation ecology, but overlapping that with engineering. So I had a supervisor in conservation ecology and I had a supervisor in mechanical engineering department, which was quite interesting. I did a study on the environmental impact of solar power and shale gas in South Africa. Then after that, I worked a little bit in a research group in engineering where we developed the solar power technology. And it was interesting to me because I didn't realize that other qualifications don't get the systems thinking exposure as the conservation ecology program does. So that was quite useful in a dynamic and complex environment such as research and development, to have that sort of systems thinking, to know that one action does not just cause another reaction. There's a whole context that you have to take into account. There's people, there's data, there's information, there's tools, there's programs. So it was interesting to work in that environment with the background that I had. And then in 2018, there was an opportunity for a job to work in the Baviaanskloof, and I don't know if anyone knows where the Baviaanskloof is, but it's a beautiful area in the Eastern Cape, and it's close to where I grew up. And I thought that the work with living lands seems interesting enough, so I took that opportunity, and it's 7 years later, and I'm still with living lands, and it has been an incredibly enriching and encouraging job to be in within a very dynamic field. And that bottom photo is just me with a couple of colleagues one day after work. So living lands, what we do large-scale ecological rehabilitation, and that does not just include fixing soil, plants, animals, but it includes the people that live there, the economies that drive the landscape, the culture that's embedded in a landscape. So we really believe in a presence approach where we have teams that live on those landscapes, that know the environment, that know the farms that we work on. We know the seasons, we know the landowners, so that we can design solutions with the people that live there. We don't come with a textbook or a consultant top-down approach, but we try to be bottom up and develop solutions with people that live on the land. This is just an overview of where we work. So we have the Baviaanskloof is our one landscape, then we have the Long Kloof, and then Hive Farm is a project site that we currently have that's in the Sundays River catchment area. Our broad approach is to look at catchment areas and to see how land use and land impacts within a catchment area can be managed. So that's done in a holistic manner, as I just explained. And currently our footprint is mostly in the Eastern Cape, but our thematic focus is broadly on the fynbos, thicket, and charoid ecoregions. So the next couple of it is just examples of our work. So you'll see some soil erosion work that we do. The top left photo is, we call those ponds. Those are small pans that we make integrated veld areas to reduce surface runoff and to increase water infiltration. And then you start building up the topsoil and to build micro ecosystems, which then over a large scale contribute to the ecological function of that area. The bottom two photos are photos of gully erosion, and there's a gully erosion structure. Then we do a lot of alien invasive plant control. Top photos are invasive cactus, which are treated with herbicide. Then the bottom two right photos is an area where we did a massive burn to eradicate invasive pine, but we also eradicated those small Hakias, or not Hakia, Paul Jackson species as well. And here's an example of veld rehabilitation. We did an exclusion plot where there's a Barrett, so 2011, the veld was quite barren, and then we excluded 1 hectare area and revegetated it with spekboom, created some erosion control measures as well, and then added some indigenous seed grasses, and you can see the difference there in the soil cover and the health and vitality of the plants. And then another major tool that we use is wildfires to manage large-scale invaded areas. That's mostly in the fynbos systems, and that is a big burn that some of our team members did last year. Then another aspect of our work is sustainable resource use and business case development. So we understand that the economy drives land use, so you can't ignore it. And we try to look at business cases that are relevant in landscape, relevant on the land and the resources and the management of the resources. So in this photo, the examples of the left photo is honeybush. There's a large wild honeybush population in the Langkloof, and then the photos on the right relates to lavender and essential oils, where we looked at alternative business case and income for the farmers in the Baviaanskloof to support them to better manage their land. And just the reflection on the conservation ecology program. I know it's been said a lot, but it really, I think many of the learners in this call might be too young to understand it, but when you enter the workforce, you realize that this course is really unique in how it exposes you to an interdisciplinary field, and also how you study on campus, how you walk between the Van der Stergebou, the forestry building, the conservation ecology building, all the way to the building, which is on the research farm, constantly moving between disciplines, and that really is something that equips you to think about challenges. You're not spoon-fed for a specific profession, but it helps you think in a way, and you really are left to make of the degree what you want. So it's for everyone to decide what they want to specialize in. You don't end the degree and then you just simply become a conservation ecologist. There's multiple fields into which you can decide to go. And that's basically me. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm also happy if anyone wants to contact me.
Thank you very much, Justine. I really appreciate it. Let me just get, we can do the Q&A if there are any questions that haven't been answered in the chat, but you're also welcome to contact Professor Alison Leslie. There's an email. She is the portfolio covered by her as postgraduate or undergraduate, basically student queries, the program outline. She's got a lot of detail about that. Potential program changes is also dealt with her. We try and renew the program, or at least every couple of years, to bring in relevant literature and knowledge and disciplines. So definitely have a look at contacting her. Have a look at our website. There's also a lot of information there. And yeah, let me know, Monica and Precious, if there's time maybe for 2 or 3 questions. Some questions.
Yes, there aren't any more new questions in the chat. Okay, there's one now from John. Do we need a specific device coming into this course?
As I said, there is computer facilities on campus. It is obviously beneficial if you're working in RAIS and you want to work after hours and not come, stay late on campus. Then it is advisable to have a laptop. I know maybe some residents have got computers in a computer room, but maybe not all residences. And if you're staying in private accommodation, then I'm sure there might not be availability. Another option is to use our library facilities. The library was revamped a couple of years ago and it's looking absolutely stunning. There's a lot of computers and it's free access for the students to work there. But I think they only open, I think, till 8 or 10 o'clock in the evening. But the NACLA facilities, the computer rooms are 24/7. So you access it with your student card and it's safe. Only students that have student cards can go in there and you can use the computers there. So, but obviously it is advisable for if you want to have the more flexibility for laptops to use, but it's definitely not 100% compulsory.
And then we had more questions coming in. Sonia, there's a question from Jenna asking how many people do get accepted into this course. And there's another question from Dylan asking how sustainable is it to work in this field of studies? Do companies contact you through the university or are there freelance opportunities?
Okay, so let's look at Jenna. So Jenna, we try. I'm not sure if it's still if there's a 100% a cap on. I know a couple of years ago we wanted to cap the student intake to I think 40, but I think we allow more students definitely because obviously over the years there might be a few students that either stop studying due to personal reasons or maybe change programs, but we try and keep the class sizes at least at 40. But if you're a good student, I think the chances is quite good for you to come in. So it will be accepted. But I don't think, Monica, you or Precious might know maybe more, but I'm not sure if there is a cap on it at the moment. Then Dylan, how sustainable is it to work in this field of study? So companies, if you're working, I think it's very much your responsibility to reach out and engage with companies either through holiday work or after you've studied. It's always good for people to know who you are, especially if you're a very active, productive, dynamic person that take your studies serious. So opportunities, I was looking up some of our students that I had contact with years ago, and they are still working in the same field. Maybe they've changed companies, but they're definitely still working in sustainable agriculture or in nature conservation. So there's definitely opportunities that's durable and long-standing. And as Justine said, I mean, many years of being actively involved in a company, and there's definitely a future for more and more. So yes, Helen, I definitely think this is a good option. So you must just find out what your interest is and your passion is, but there's a lot of opportunities out there.
And then there are two more questions, Sonia. Are there any oceanic practicals in the third year if you choose the ecology module with marine biology? And then there's another question, which I think you can probably answer both at the same time. The marine module, what does it specifically look at? Not sure in how much detail you want to go in there.
Yeah, I don't have too much. I don't have what you see in the yearbook is what I will basically know. Charles, I think you've got your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, so for the marine module, well, maybe let's start with the oceanic practicals in the third year. So I don't know if it changed, but there used to be the module where there's that field trip to Komiki that is very much marine orientated. So basically what that entails is the group of students go out and they do sort of a mini investigation of specific topics, whatever is relevant for that year in the marine space. The marine module, from what I remember, is very much focused on the physiological part and the evolutionary part. So that'll be the first real exposure to the evolutionary background. Yeah, I think that's also been a couple of years ago for me now, but that's how I remember it.
I quickly pulling up the yearbook. I'm just getting here biodiversity and ecology, if you allow me. So Charl, there's a new module that came in, I think last year or the year before, and I can just read it out loud. Okay, integrative marine science. This module is presented as 5 sections that progress from understanding the physical, chemical, geological, and biological nature of marine systems to the utilization, management, and protection of marine product systems. Exploration of the physical marine environment focused on specifically on ocean climate and circulation, tides and waves, and coastal and estuarine processes. This is followed by the chemical section, which examines the properties of seawater, focusing on salinity and dissolved gases. The geological section considers plate tectonics, marine provinces, marine sediments. The biological section explores biological life in ocean and adaptations of marine organisms to the different marine environments. So there's definitely a very strong marine focus in this module. And I also know in the BDE program itself, there are at least 3 or 4 researchers, lecturers that specialize in various aspects of marine biology. So if that is your passion, I would definitely encourage you to consider choosing that program. But saying that, at the same time, there are some of our students that did conservation ecology and did a 4th year project with those academics in collaboration. So basically do your 4th year project with us. So study our program, you do your 4th year project, but we include the researcher or the academic from the BDE program in, say, a shark research study. So that has happened several times before. So that's not, that's also possible. So you can still do our program. You'll have a bit less marine, but you can, if that's all your passion. I think that there's at least 2 of our students that recently did that for their 4th year projects and then carried on with marine ecology thereafter.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. I'm just trying to see if there was another question after that. I think the other question that you can perhaps answer, because the other ones are about requirements getting into the program. After completing an undergrad degree, is funding for research in the field easily available? That's the question from Marlene.
So it's definitely easier at postgraduate level than undergraduate level. We're fortunate that the National Research Foundation still awards bursaries, although there are fewer. The university itself has come to the party by offering postgraduate student scholarships. So basically to pick up the shortfall that the government has not been able to cover. But that has also, as you can imagine, with more and more students coming to university, that demand's also high. But there is definitely more opportunities, especially also if you link up with industry-related projects or work, you know, in a large agricultural type of system, then that's a possibility. Or if you want to carry on with work and then after a year or 2 come back, well, that's also an option. Or then student loans, they're very well priced in terms of interest rate. And I know of several students that have taken the loan option and was able to easily pay that off after securing a good job. So it is always a challenge, but definitely more opportunities at postgraduate level.
Okay, great. I think we can end it there, Sonia. I have posted in the chat a link to the Open Day website, which will have the information about the different programs, and you can then go to conservation ecology and entomology to find out more about the curriculum and the requirements of the program, and also obviously what each module entails, etc.
Thank you.
But,
Yes.
yeah, but also feel free to send us an email if there are other detailed questions that you want to ask.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Precious, for all your help, the technical help, and thank you to everyone that attended. I hope it was meaningful, and then also to all our contributors, Justine and Shell and Copano. I really appreciate your participation. You must have a lovely evening and stay safe.